Yo, what is up, Smite fans? Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be going over the current tier list for the Newt patch, Open Beta 25. There were a lot of changes this patch, and it's definitely shaken the meta up quite a bit. So this is just my opinion. I know a lot of people have, different views on what's good and what's not. This is just based on what I see picked and doing well in my ranked games. So I'm going to go down the list alphabetically, talk a little bit about each god, and yeah, let's just jump into it. Starting off with Achilles. This god is just good. People play him a lot in the jungle, and I do think he's good there, but I don't think he's quite like overpowered. He's very solid, and you've got a lot of early game pressure. He's got a stun. If you take him jungle, don't use the aspect. I think he's much better without it. And in solo lane, y'all know I'm pretty bad at solo lane, so I don't really have the best takes on ranking those gods, but I think he's fine over there as well. It's never going to be bad to have an execute on your front line. So I don't know how his laning phase compares to the other gods, but he can't be bad. So we're just going to put him in A tier. Agni, I would say this god is S tier right now. They've nerfed the aspect a whole bunch, but I think he's still very good with aspect or without it. You can play him in mid, just like standard traditional mage Agni, or you can take him over into carry and build basic attack. He's got a ranged stun that's unmissable, very high pressure, and he's safe as well. So definitely a solid pick. Aladdin, this is going to be our first ban. They reworked him a couple patches ago and changed his kit up quite a bit, but I still see him picked or banned in every single game. And when he's played, he's dominating the lobby, so definitely ban Aladdin if you want to win your games. Amaterasu, I think this god's pretty bad right now. You can maybe take it into the jungle, but in solo lane, it just gets like absolutely rinsed every game I see it played. I don't think she quite compares to what the other solo laners bring to the table. On her, I would say this god is S tier. I think in ranked, all of the hunters that are good at dueling, like at 1v1, are especially strong because you want to fight your opponent and like mechanically outplay them to get a lead. Anher's very good at that. Great lane pressure, CC immune ult, a lot of outplay potential in the kit, and he's just very safe as well. So Anher's a very solid pick. Anubis, I mean, this god's decent. He's not bad. I think he's probably a little bit better in solo lane than he is in mid. He's got good wave clear. His 1v1's pretty good as well. So he's nothing special, but he is decent. Aphrodite, I'm going to put in B tier as well. I've seen this played in mid, and I think if you have a good matchup, it can be okay there. Like if you're fighting a Poseidon or a Daji or something, her ult can bring a lot of value to the table. In support, I think she's out pressured a lot. You can play it there, but if you lose lane, you're going to have a bad time. So just be careful if you pick the Aphrodite. Apollo, he's a pretty good hunter, but he's not really like S tier, I don't think. You've got the global presence on the ult, which is always great. Self-peel with the Mez. He's a very safe god. Just your standard traditional hunter. Definitely a good pick. Ares. This god I'm actually not too sure on because I've seen some really inconsistent performance from him recently. Like, I'm debating between putting him B or A. I actually think I am going to drop him in B because he does win lane. He's great at that. But if you lose lane, if you don't get pressure, or if your team is behind, he's kind of just useless. Into the right comp, he's definitely a good pick. So I'd say he's more of like a counter pick in this meta. You can pick him if they don't have a lot of CC immunities or if they have, stuff that you can chain out, a lot of dashes that you want to cripple. I think part of the reason he's kind of weaker this patch is because you can upgrade your beads into team beads, and an AoE cleanse just kind of makes his ult useless. So he's okay. He's not a bad pick. And if you win the lane, you're going to run it down. So definitely decent. Artemis. I'm also debating on putting her A or B. I think she's good. I definitely think she's good because her lane is kind of bad. But if you get through the laning phase and you make it to late game, she hyperscales. Very good team fight ult. If your team plays around you and peels you properly, then you're going to get a lot of work done. It can be hard to get through the early game on this character because she's so easy to gank. But if you know what you're doing, you have good map awareness, just play safe for the first couple levels so you have some items online, and then she really shines. Athena, I'm just going to put this guy in A tier. I think for both support and jungle, she's quite solid. Nothing super special going on with her. She's got a very good CC on the taunt, global presence with the ult. If you take her into jungle, don't use the aspect. That aspect is horrible. But aside from that, she does actually bring a lot to a team comp. So you can play her in two roles. You can even play her solo if you really want to, if you're feeling frisky. But I think traditionally she's played in mostly support and jungle, and she's okay in both of those places. Awilix. I mean, I don't think she's bad. Like, I definitely wouldn't put her in for fun tier. I think she's just decent right now. Compared to the junglers that are actually good, she doesn't quite compete in the late game, but she still does the Awilix thing where if you're into a comp that has a bunch of leaps or your team has some knockups, she's a great pick there. And if you snowball, you're going to absolutely run the game. So Awilix is still a good pick if you know how to play her, but I don't think she's going to compare to the junglers we're going to put in A tier later. Bacchus. I haven't seen this god picked a whole lot. I can't imagine he's very bad, so I'm just going to put him in B tier since I haven't seen him played a whole bunch. But, he brings anti-heal to the table. He's got good damage, good CC. Bacchus is always going to be a solid pick. Princess Bari. This is another god I haven't seen a lot of recently, but I think when she is played, she kind of pops off. More so, I see her with like a mage build in the mid lane than I do over in carry. Her kit just does a lot of burst damage, and she's not the safest character in the world, but the ult is great in team fights. And yeah, I'd say Bari fits well in A tier. Baron Samedi. I'm going to put this god in S. This god is so annoying to deal with. In support is probably his strongest role. Baron can also be played in solo or in mid. You just have to be a little bit more careful if you pick him in those roles because he's not as safe as some of the other gods and you have to position very carefully. But I definitely think Baron is a very good character right now. Bellona. I'm putting this god in ban tier. This god absolutely runs it down every single time I see it picked. Mostly in the solo lane. You could play a jungle if you have like good matchups or something. But, you know, I don't think she's like a must ban character. So putting it in S+ is maybe a little questionable. But I think she's probably the top god in solo from what I've seen in my games. The build people are going with the Reaper into Sanguine Lash and a whole bunch of lifesteal just makes her so ungovernable in team fights. You win the lane and you run it down. Bellona's great. Cabrakan is a character I've seen pop off, but I've also seen him get absolutely annihilated. So I'm just going to put him in A tier. I don't know. Like solo lane is like my hardest role to put rankings because I don't play that role. It's my worst by far. So you might want to ask somebody that's a little bit better over there, their opinion on this god, because I'm sure he's okay. You know, he's got a good laning phase from what I can see. And he does good damage in team fights as well. He's got great CC, a lot going on for him. Definitely not a bad pick. I just don't know if I would quite put him in S tier based on the performances I've seen. So we'll just leave him in A. Cerberus. I haven't seen this god picked very much at all recently. And I think he's good if you have a good matchup, like in solo lane specifically. I wouldn't really take him into support. But if their comp has a lot of healing and your 1v1 matchup is good in solo, he's probably okay over there. Just haven't really seen any all-star performance coming from the Cerberus lately, so we'll put him in B. Kurnanos. I've gotten cheesed by a couple Kern jungles recently with the aspect. He does a lot of damage. And in carry, I think he's a bit underwhelming compared to like the other hunters. But he's not bad by any means. He just lacks a little bit of the utility and safety that some of the other hunters bring. I'm just going to put him in A tier because he's definitely not S. He's not overpowered by any means. So I think A is a good spot for Kurnanos. Chalk. You know, part of me wants to put this god in S tier just because he's running it down in my queues lately, but I don't think he's actually overpowered. I think he just kind of bullies lane, and then if you get a lead, you run it down. Similar to like the Awilix effect, if you get ahead early, he's great. But if you fall behind, Chalk doesn't have a whole lot of utility to help him bring himself back into the game. So it kind of all depends on the position that your team is in. At the very least, he's safe and has good clear, so Chalk's definitely a solid character. Cupid. Cupid's A tier. Just another solid hunter. He's especially good if you're into a comp that gets ruined by cripples, like they have a lot of dashes, they're reliant on their mobility. He's got good sustain in lane, and he's pretty safe as well. So Cupid definitely fits well in A tier. Danzaburou. This is another god I've gotten cheesed by a couple times in the jungle recently. I think he's quite good there if you don't fall too far behind. And in Hunter, he's great at running it down with the rest of your team. So if you've got a very dive heavy comp, Danza slots in well there. He's not as safe as some other hunters, but he does have the 3. I don't know. He's just good. Fenrir, I actually think is a little bit underplayed. I see him like rarely ever at all, but he's not bad. In the jungle, I imagine you would just go the same build you would go in solo, which would be like the Reaper into Sanguine Lash and full lifesteal type of thing. He's probably pretty okay with that build. He's one of those characters that does need a little bit of defense to do his thing, but he's got great damage and the ult is always going to be solid for getting a pick. I think he's okay in support as well, especially if you are with a hunter that gets lane pressure and you guys can run it down together. He's not so good if you fall behind, so I think he fits well in B tier. Ganesh. Now, if it were up to me, I would ban this character every game, but unfortunately, there's a lot of OP characters, so I haven't been able to take him out. I actually don't think he's like that ridiculous in this meta. He's very annoying, especially for junglers and dive gods, but I think I'm going to put him in B. I hate this character personally. He counters me mentally, but I don't think he's like too strong. Geb. Okay, funnily enough, the aspect just dropped today, so I've only seen it a couple times, but I actually think this god might be S tier. From what I've seen, I don't know if I'm just hallucinating or if like people haven't figured out how to play against this yet, but Geb aspect ADC with the agility relic does seem to be quite strong. From the small sample of games I played today, I think he's good. So maybe we'll bump him down to A tier once the meta settles a little bit and people figure out what they're doing. But in support, I think he's probably closer to like A, maybe even B tier. It just depends on the comp you're into. If you're fighting like a Dodgy or a Fenrir or something that you can easily cleanse with the shield, he's quite good there. And he's got good peel. Geb's always just a really solid pick. So S tier with the aspect, probably A tier for support. I actually just realized that because I used my old template for this tier list, all of the new gods that got added didn't get sorted alphabetically. So as far as these ones at the bottom go, they will be at the end of the tier list, and everything else will be, alphabetical as normal. Sorry about that. Anyways, Guan Yu, this god is decent. I don't think he's quite on the level of the other gods that we have in A tier, but his ult is unpeelable. He's got good healing, and if they don't have a way to interrupt your 3, that ability does a lot of damage as well. So I don't think he's quite A tier, but yeah, Guan Yu's just decent. Hades, this god I'm going to put in A. He's got a lot going on for him. He's pretty safe. He's got good sustain, and he has great matchups into a lot of the meta solo laners. So I think he fits well here. Hecate is one of the better mid picks right now. I think she definitely is S tier. Her ult is just amazing in team fights. She brings a lot to the table with her barrier. She's got good peel with the mez and really insane damage as well. So Hecate is definitely an S tier mid. Hercules is another god that I think is a little underrated right now. I'm going to put him in A tier, specifically for jungle. I think he's okay in solo as well, though, to be clear. He's got good sustain and pressure, a lot of damage. But I think for jungle, this god is actually kind of oppressive. His ult does like 900 base damage and 100% scaling. So that hits pretty hard. And if you were to go the Reaper into lifesteal build that I've been talking about a little bit, that seems like it would just be insane on him. You could even just go like a traditional normal jungle build with some cooldown. And I'm sure he's great with that as well. Kind of just depends on your playstyle. But I think Hercules is good. Hu Yi, I'm going to put in S tier for the same reasons as on her. He's a great dueler. His ult brings a lot of teamfight potential, like area denial. The wall is crazy. And he's got a range stun as well, which is always going to be insane. Hu Yi is definitely one of the better carries in this meta. So we'll put him in S tier. Hoon Bots. He's definitely S tier. I mean, I personally kind of think he's worth banning. Even after they nerfed the aspect, he got hit pretty hard this patch. So stun bats isn't quite as dominant as it was before, but I think base kit, Hun Bats is still like one of the top junglers. I'm not going to put him in ban tier because he's not like Aladdin levels of OP, but I don't know. The ult can just be really oppressive to deal with in teamfights. It's such a massive area of CC. Maybe a little bit worse now that people can actually buy into 2 relics. Because before, when they were locked into 1, they either had to choose Beads or Aegis, and then no matter which one you pop, Hun Bats is just killing you through it anyway. But I think he's a little bit less oppressive now that the aspect got nerfed, and he's definitely S tier. Izanami is one of those gods that is like pretty good in lower ranks, but as you climb the ladder, she falls off quite a bit. You get lane pressure, which is great, but you don't really do as much as other hunters in terms of like utility. She's actually quite easy to kill. This is more of a cheese character to pick if you want to just like split push and run down a lane. I don't think she's very good, but definitely decent. Janus. This god is the bane of my existence, and for that reason, he's going in S tier. I don't know if he's actually broken, but as far as mages go, he's one of the safer ones. The thing with most mid gods is they do an absurd amount of damage, and they're really obnoxious, but they're killable. Janus does all of that, and he's like the safest god in the game. So he's very frustrating to run down. You have to coordinate well with your solo laner. I will say that Janus early game is not very oppressive compared to most other mids, so you could probably make the argument that he's like just A tier, but he counters me on a personal level, so he's going in S. Jing Wei. I would say this god is good. She's probably a little bit better in like comp, but I think for ranked, her early game isn't as strong as some of the other hunters. And so, if you get to late game, she still does a ton of damage. Great with a crit build, very safe as well. Yeah, actually, screw it. She's going in S tier. She's extremely safe. Her late game is nuts. Even though she's not, as dominant early game, I changed my mind. I think this god is S tier. Jormungandr. This god is also going to go in S. He pretty much guaranteed wins lane pressure over in solo. They did change the agility relic to not be so obnoxious on him, but I think even without that, he's a really safe character and he's great in the laning phase. And in team fights, he does a ton of damage. A couple patches ago, I said that you could just really ignore him. I think if you do that now, you're going to get rinsed. So Yorm is definitely worth picking. Kali. I mean, I think in lower ranks, Kali is like really good, but for anything above masters, people kind of know what she's got going on and will hold their CC to punish her. If you get to late game and you're full build Kali, that's always going to be good. I think her problem is just that all of the other top junglers do more. It's not that she herself is bad. It's just that she's kind of outclassed at the moment. And she's very easy to pressure early game as well. So I'm going to leave her in B tier. Khepri, I think this god is good for what he does. Traditionally, backline supports are not as good in a pressure meta, but I think Khepri is kind of the exception to the rule because his ult is just so strong. And it's not like his laning phase is bad by any means. He's got a lot of great utility. So Khepri's by no means OP, but he's in a pretty good spot right now. Kukulkan. This god has an aspect coming out soon that I think is going to be pretty fun. I don't know if it'll actually be like really good or not, but I think for now, we're just going to leave him in A tier. He's okay in the mid lane. He's got a lot of good area damage, good objective secure. He's pretty safe with the dash they gave him as well. So He's not a top mid pick, but I think as far as mages go, he's quite strong. So we'll leave him an A. Loki. I hate this character, and if it were up to me, I would put him in C tier, but I actually think he's pretty good now because they buffed him this patch, and his damage is pretty nice. It depends on the comp that you're facing a little bit, because certain junglers can like absolutely annihilate Loki early game, and if you fall behind, you're not going to have a good time. But I will say, if you're in lower ranks, or, you know, if you know what you're doing, he's pretty cringe. You can invis into a team fight, one-shot somebody, and then your invis is back up. So it's a little bit of a corny pick, but he's not bad anymore. He's quite good. Medusa. You know, I don't think this character's insane, but I've seen a couple Medusas pop off recently. So in spite of the fact that her dash is one of the worst spells in the game, I think Medusa actually brings enough to the table to warrant an A tier, especially compared to the other hunters in the tab. I think Medusa slots in well here. Mercury. I think this god is actually in a pretty similar spot to Kali, where he's like not bad by any means, but he's just a little bit outclassed. I think he's a little bit better than Kali in the sense that his gank is much better than hers early game between the dash and the global ult. And if you get Mercury to late game, he's always going to be the same hyper carry he always was. It's just that crit builds have kind of fallen off ever since they nerfed Lernian Bow. Yeah, he's not amazing, but he's definitely decent. Merlin. This is a tough one because they nerfed Polynomicon recently to have an internal cooldown, which was one of his like most OP items. And I think he's still S tier in spite of that, because he just brings so much to the table. You've got a ton of AoE damage, great objective shred, and in situations where you need to defend your base, Merlin can be really hard to siege into. He's got great anti-siege. So yeah, even though they nerfed Polynomicon, I think Merlin is still one of the top mages right now. Mordred. I personally think this god is pretty strong right now. With the lifesteal build that all the soul laners are running, he kind of annihilates people, and he's got a great laning phase, pretty safe with the ult as well. So I think he fits well in S tier. Mulan. This character also saw some nerfs recently, but for the same reason Mordred's in S tier, I think Mulan fits there. She's great with the meta build, good laning phase, really strong ultimate. Mulan's just a solid pick. Neith. Man, fuck this character. Like, I would totally ban this every single game if I had the opportunity, but I think she's just like, I'm going to put it in S tier because it counters me on a personal level. I don't know if she's actually that OP, but she is extremely safe and very annoying to deal with. You can play her in mid or solo. I wouldn't really take her into carry. I mean, maybe with the aspect. I just haven't seen it really. But getting a free lane and just farming up and, you know, doing neat things, I would say she's S tier. Moving on, we've got Nemesis. I think this god's S tier in the jungle. Like, every time I play it, it feels super duper strong. Her passive is a 42% power swing, and between that and the barrier, you pretty much win all 1v1s that you take, as well as the fact that you've got Prot Shred on your ult. She's got great ganks. She's a great duelist. I think Nem is firmly in S tier for jungle. Nuwa. This god is just decent. This is another character that I haven't been seeing played pretty much at all recently. But I think if you get through the landing phase, you get a couple items online, that ult can be really annoying to deal with. She's one of those characters where your team kind of needs to play around you. And for that reason, I think she's less good in ranked. But when compared to the other mages, I don't think she's nearly as strong. So I think B is a nice spot for Nuwa. Odin. All right. This god's going in ban tier. I think he's broken. In the jungle and in the solo, honestly. Maybe a little bit less so in the solo, but in jungle, he's completely oppressive. You go Reaper, you go Sanguine Lash, you're ungovernable, you do a ton of damage, and the cage can be really obnoxious too, depending on the comp you're playing. It's interesting because now that they nerfed Sunder, more supports are picking up Shell than they were before, so his ult is a little bit less strong. That kind of maybe bumps him down a little bit, but I think he's worth banning personally, so we'll leave him in S+. Pele. The last couple times I tried playing her, she didn't feel really bad. Like, she still does the Pele thing where she's got early pressure, and if you get a lead, you're going to run it down. They did rework Reaper for the umpteenth time, and I think it's a good item now, finally. So I think she's okay. I don't think she's anything special, though. I was going to put her in A tier, but actually, comparing her to the other gods we have here and the junglers that we have in B, I think she fits better down here. I don't see her played a whole lot. I don't know. She's not bad. She's okay. So I think she fits well in B. Poseidon, I'm going to say, is A tier. This god's actually kind of underrated in my opinion. He's got really good mobility. He farms super well. Kraken kind of forces the enemy into wanting to go Aegis. If your jungler picks something like Hunbats, Fenrir, Thor, something that makes them really want to go beads, Poseidon can kind of thrive in those games. And like I said, he's got great pressure. I think he's a really good mid right now. So we'll put him in A. For Ra, I think I'm going to put Ra in B tier. Because he's definitely decent. Don't get me wrong. He's one of those characters that, like, if you're good at him and you get a good laning phase, you pop off early game, you're really going to shine and just absolutely run the match. But I think that in ranked, it's kind of easy to just like run him down and gank his lane over and over and over and shut him down. And if you have a bad early game on Raw, you're going to have a bad time the whole match. He's not great from behind. But that said, if your team's got good CC, you can definitely hit some really nasty snipes on this character. He's got good objective secure, good lane pressure. Part of me wants to bump him up to A tier because I have seen one Raw pop off pretty hard recently, but I just don't see him picked a whole lot. So we'll leave him in B for now. Rama, dude, fuck this character. This character's buns. I swear this character's buns. Okay, he still does the ADC thing. He's got 2 stems, and so if you get to late game, he's going to be good. But I just don't think he brings anything to the table. Every time I see him picked, he loses. I could be completely wrong here, but we've got to have a couple C tier gods here. There's not a whole lot going into C tier because I think the meta is actually in a pretty balanced spot. But if I was going to put any hunter in C tier, it would be Rama. Now, Scylla. I haven't seen her picked in support nearly as much recently, but I don't think that's because she's bad there by any means. I'm debating between A and S tier. I'm going to leave her in A for both mid and support. They nerfed Lifebinder quite a bit, so maybe that's why she fell off. And in mid, I don't know, she's pretty safe. She doesn't have a strong fight early game, but if you get to late game, she hyperscales. I think she's good. For Sobek, I do think he's one of the stronger supports right now. He's got a lot going for him. Really strong CC. If you get a lead in the laning phase, he's oppressive. And you have an execute on your front line, which is obviously going to be good. Soul, I think she's good. She's very safe. In ADC, I'm talking about, because in mid, I don't think she's exceptional with the aspect. She's kind of underwhelming there. But for ADC, she's got good damage, pretty strong laning phase, and I actually think she's a little bit underplayed right now. So I'll put her in A. Sun Wukong. I mean, this guy's not really picked a whole lot, but I don't think he's bad by any means. So we'll just put him in A tier, because I do think he's good. He's quite safe. I think the reason he's not played is probably just because Sol Lane has so many strong options right now. And maybe his laning phase doesn't quite compare to some of the other top guys. But I don't think he's bad by any means. Like I said, he's very safe. He's got good damage. So we'll leave him in A. Susano, this god is like really borderline bad. Okay, let's be serious. He's not bad. His ult is just terrible. They made his ult not do the knockup unless it's fully charged. And that makes it like kind of trash. But his base kit is fine. His damage is really good. And he's high mobility. So his gank is still great. But I think Susano fits pretty well with these other junglers that we have in B. Thanatos, I'm going to say is A tier. There's a build that somebody told me about where you go Reaper, or no, sorry, it's Dagger Frenzy, Reaper, and then Heartseeker, and Time Lock Aegis. And that build is actually kind of funny. So I think Thanatos is quite good. He's got an execute, so that's never going to be bad. Global presence and really good early pressure as well. If you fall behind, you might have a hard time though, so just be careful. He's kind of a volatile pick. The Morrigan, I think this character is decent. You know, you could almost bump her up into A. It kind of just depends on the comp. Like, if you can transform into a lot of strong ultimates, I think she's great there. But she's not been seen nearly as much ever since they nerfed her aspect, and so I'm just going to leave her in B. Thor. Now, this god is S tier for sure. I honestly am starting to think he's like borderline ban worthy because they buffed him this patch. And I think he got buffed recently before that as well. He's got a range stun, really good damage. He doesn't really have any bad matchups. I think Thor is definitely one of the top picks. Tsukiyomi, I would say this god fell off quite a bit this patch now that people are able to go 2 relics if they want. Before, you could kind of force people into going Aegis, and then if your team had a lot of CC, he just kind of like put people in a really hard spot. But now, I think especially into players that know what they're doing, it's very easy to punish Tsukiyomi. You know, if you get to late game, he still scales really well. You do a ton of damage, great poke, but you've got to have good positioning. It's easy to get caught out. So I definitely think he fits well in A tier. Ullr, I would say, is an S tier hunter for the same reasons as Anhur and Huyi. He's great at dueling. He's even good in mid and maybe solo if you're like a really talented Ullr player. He's got a lot of damage, range stun. What else is there to say? Ullr's pretty good. Now, Vulcan. Part of me wants to put this guy in C because I almost never see it, and when I do, usually it feeds. But I don't think his damage is like that bad. So you could maybe bump him up to B. I just think if I was going to pick a mid god to be in C tier, it would probably be Vulcan. He's not really got anything going on for him aside from like damage, and he's very easy to kill. Tank Vulcan with the aspect can be kind of silly. I don't think he's bad, but I would say he's for fun, so we'll leave him in C. Yemoja, this god is still S tier. She will probably be S tier till the end of time. She's one of the most obnoxious gods to play into and support because her ult is extremely strong in teamfights. She's got a range stun, the healing and the barrier. If you play support, learn Yemoja. She's like always going to be good. With the aspect in mid, she's probably somewhere around A tier. I don't think she's like overpowered by any means, but her damage is kind of crazy, and her matchups into certain mid laners allow you to just kill them for free. So I think she's okay there, especially in rank. But yeah, Yamota's S tier. Ymir, I think this god is good. He's not like exceptional by any means, but he brings a wall to the table. So into certain comps, you can make their life really hard. He's one of the only supports that has good objective secure as well with the ult. And freeze is still a really strong ability. Ymir is just good. Zeus, I think this god is decent. It's hard because in ranked, your team kind of has to play around you for you to shine as Zeus. And so if they don't know what they're doing, you can kind of just get run down and have a bad time. But I think his damage is really good. And he can also be really hard to dive in certain comps. So I think Zeus is decent. Xbalanque, they did buff his aspect this patch, but I don't see it being played really at all in spite of that. As far as in carry, I think he's good late game, but his laning phase is quite bad and he's very easy to gank. Really strong ult for team fights, so that's something, but I don't think he's quite on the level of these other hunters, so I'm going to leave him in B. Eset, this god is definitely ban worthy. She's got an obnoxious amount of CC. Honestly, I think you can pick her in any of the 5 roles and have a good game. Obviously, she mostly shines in mid or support. Her aspect is super broken. Her kit is just OP in general. Range sound on a 6-second cooldown. AoE silence that shreds prots and gives you a Geb shield. Her objective secure is one of the best in the game. I don't know what else to say. This character is broken. S tier. Osiris, I think this is definitely still one of the top solo laners. He's got a really strong laning phase. He's good with the meta build. Extremely hard to kill. Very good pick. Sylvanas, he's decent in the sense that he brings lane pressure to the table, but he doesn't bring much of anything else. You know, there is actually some cheese people are doing with Scepter of Dominion because his pull it can actually grab people out of that. And since they buffed Scepter this patch, it's become a pretty decent item to go. So I think that makes him a little bit better. Part of me wants to put him down in for fun tier because I swear every game I have a Sylvanas, I'm just losing. This guy doesn't really tend to perform all that well, but maybe that's just their positioning and a skill issue. I don't think he's like bad. He's just not great. So we'll leave him in B. Daji, this character gets picked or banned in every single game. So I'm going to put her in S+. She's extremely obnoxious. She does a ton of burst damage. Even though now carries can go 2 relics and you can upgrade your beads into team beads, it's not even necessarily the pull of the ult that makes her OP. She goes up into the sky and becomes damage immune and does a ton of damage in the meantime. She's really hard to lock down and absolutely one-shots people late game. So Daji's definitely a top pick. Ardio, this character is ridiculous as well. With or without aspect, I think she's very strong, but mostly I see her being picked with the aspect and they just stay bare form all game. They go the full lifesteal build with Reaper, Sanguine, all that. She's very hard to kill, does a ton of damage. Her ult in bare form is extremely strong, so Ardio is also ban-worthy. And last but not least, we have Newt. I don't know if this character is worth banning, but I have a prediction. I think that support aspect they're about to drop is going to be extremely strong. And so for that reason, she'll be playable in 3 roles. You can pick her carry, you can play it mid, and you can now, eventually you'll be able to play it support. And so I think because she's so versatile, she's worth being in ban tier, maybe like just around an S. At the very least, she's S tier because she does a ton of damage. She is easy to kill. That's like her only downside. But if your team plays around you or you just have really good positioning, this character can absolutely pop off and carry games. So I think this is the tier list for the current patch. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with anything. Please be sure to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It helps a lot and makes me want to make more videos. Go follow my Twitch as well. I've been streaming a little bit more over there. It's been a good time. You can ask me some questions. You can watch me feed in the jungle. Go follow me on Twitch. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. See ya.